Good evening. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Utility Safety and Environment Committee meeting. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today is Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the Utilities Committee meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Simmons, seconded by Mrs. Davis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is the matter of creating an ordinance to remove fines for minor misdemeanor marijuana violations. This was referred by Council Member Lippian, and I don't see him. So we have members from the prosecutor's office here.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Chief Pelko from EPD is here. Also, Chief Prosecutor Scott Straight from my office is here, as well as Prosecutor Brandon Oliver. Should the committee have any questions, I've had some discussion with Mr. Lippian regarding his desire to amend the city ordinances regarding cannabis. I believe what he's looking for, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, is to regarding possession. I have discussed with him that under both city law and the state law, and indeed under the federal drug law, that the term of art is marijuana, and I've expressed some concerns based upon some of the suggestions that he's made. I'm not saying that these couldn't be discussed or considered, but I think that there would need obviously to be quite a bit of input from not only this committee but council as a whole should you all decide to move forward, and that is why I requested that members of my criminal staff be here, and also I thought it would be wise for you to hear from Chief Pelko. So that's why they're here.
Okay, thank you. I think normally, because the referrer isn't here to give their input, we would table this. However, we have such distinguished guests, I'm going to move forward with this, if that's okay with the committee. Okay. Chief Pelko, as the chief is coming, I just want to say, I don't pretend to be a lawyer, and I don't pretend to understand the law, but I do know that marijuana is still illegal in the state of Ohio, and I think perhaps we're getting out over our skis and changing the violations and the what have you and so forth. So that's just my personal opinion, but Chief Pelko, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I agree with you 100%. There's a reason why it's on the law books. It's still illegal in the state of Ohio. The federal government considers it's illegal. I have no idea why we would want to decriminalize it. I would be totally against it. I see a bunch of issues that we could run into by legalizing it in the city when you still have a state law and a federal law where you can't have marijuana. So I don't know what his rationale is and why he sees that we should do it. I mean, from my understanding, he wants to still have the law, but just have no fines and no punishment, which doesn't make sense to me either. Why even have the law? So, but I'm against it. I'll be happy to entertain any questions about it. I can testify to the fact that we have homicides over marijuana. I think if you would legalize it, it probably would make it worse. So.
Thank you, Chief Pelko. Are there any questions, Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair. Chief, my thought is, I can't believe it's even coming up like this, but with us getting these cannabis stores is when they leave that store, and acting erratically and get caught, with their card, does that excuse them?
Yeah, so I think these are two totally different topics. What
Okay.
you're talking about is medical marijuana.
Okay.
And for medical marijuana, you need the card. You've got to be prescribed it. When you go to the cannabis store, you're going there, it's in a special container and sealed package. If you get stopped and it's not in that package and you don't have your medical card, we can take action for that. And knock on wood, but most of those people that we have run into are following the law and doing what they're supposed to do. I think if you legalize it, you're gonna have people walking up and down the street smoking marijuana, being high, walking around downtown, walking around the schools. I don't want that in my city. I would hope that you wouldn't want that in your city as well. I think it's just a dangerous door that we're opening up to people if we want to let them smoke marijuana freely in the city of Elyria.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you again. Chief, I totally agree with you. I don't want to see this on our city streets. Just walking around and then you get caught and you get 0 fine. If that's the case, it's going to be 0 fine for traffic if we keep going this route. So.
Agree.
Thank you, Chief.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Davis. Are there any other questions for Chief Palco? Mr. Osborne?
Through you, Madam Chair. I guess Chad and myself had a small conversation. Chad just brought up a quick and easy. We have state laws right now, and I didn't really realize it because I don't pay too much attention to it because, yeah, that's not my baby. I don't know the law. But after he said that, I'm like, yeah, I guess if we have a state law, why would we be doing something different at this point, you know, to change it? So I guess I'm leaning the same way. I think we just need to leave it alone the way that we've been doing. Yeah, and it'd be nice if Mr. Lippian would have been here today. He could have maybe given a better view of what he was thinking. I don't know. But, yeah, I guess I have to agree with you guys.
And through you, Madam Chair, I did get confirmation from our prosecutor's office that the vast majority of cases that do go to Elyria Muni Court, and bear in mind, not all of these are City of Elyria cases because the clerk's office obviously gets cases from North Ridgeville and the townships and, you know, through Highway Patrol, but they are charged under state of Ohio law. There's a variety of reasons for that, but they are charged under the Ohio Revised Code, not under our city ordinance. And as it stands now, the language of our city ordinance, which is the case for most of our criminal provisions, that language does mirror the state law, word for word.
Thank you, Mrs. Deary. Thank you, Chief Palco. Are there any other questions for Mrs. Deary or Chief Palco? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Strait, if you'd like to have a word since you're here. If you don't mind coming to the mic, please. State your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Not that easy.
You can use your court address. You can use the court address. Is your mic on?
No, it's not.
There you go. Thank you.
Sorry. Chief Prosecutor Scott Strait, 601 Broad Street. The main point I was going to make, I believe Law Director Deary touched on in the end, is that even if the city of Elyria were to repeal our marijuana ordinance, even if we repealed all our drug laws, it doesn't change anything. It's still illegal. And the Elyria Police Department, there was one city of Elyria ordinance case I found in the last 2 years. Generally, almost 100% of the time, they're charged under state code. So the effect of this would really, there would be no effect. And that's, if that makes sense to anybody. Any questions?
Any questions for Prosecutor Strait? Thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since it's on the floor, Mr. Lippian brought it. If there's ordinance, we will, legislation, I'll read it and we can take a vote on it.
Through you, Madam Chair. Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to let you know that there is no formal proposed ordinance. Obviously, there's a committee report. I also just wanted to let you know that I was awaiting to hear back from Community Development Director Ashley Scott, and this is, I know, through no fault of her own. She was actually reaching out to her HUD contact. One of the things that I wanted to look into is, would there be any implications with our federal funding if we were to take this action? I have not been able to successfully or verify either way with other communities in Ohio that have gone this route, if they've had any issues as far as, say, CDBG funding or HUD funding, being yanked as a result of this due to the fact that it is still a Schedule I drug under federal regulations. But some of these communities have done this in the last, several years, and sometimes it takes time to catch up. And I certainly would not want to advise that there is no risk of that, obviously, because those dollars are not insignificant. And so that is still outstanding. I would imagine that as soon as Mrs. Scott hears that she'll, let me know that as well. So one of the other things that was brought up, and I would not advise, this committee or certainly council of a whole to pursue would be any sort of legislation that would mandate or dictate to the courts what their court costs would be. I think that we don't do that for any of our other ordinances, and I think that we're kind of going down a path of a separation of powers. I mean, that's definitely a discretionary thing for another branch of government. So I just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you, Mrs. Deary.
Sorry.
So I'm going to read the legislation. We have considered the matter of proposed verbiage for the removal of fines and court costs. I'm sorry, it does not say that. Let me try again. We have considered the matter of proposed verbiage for the removal of fines and costs from minor misdemeanor marijuana legislation, and this would be an ordinance authorizing the proposed removal of said fines. Can I get a motion, please? It dies for lack of a motion. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is again referred by Mr. Lippian, and it is the request to reduce the speed limit on Park Avenue from 35 to 25 miles per hour. Again, Mr. Lippian is not here. Mr. Oswald.
Yeah, and here again, I do drive down Park. I don't know where you want this to go right now. I just thought I'd give my input. I lived in that area a long time. I just drive down Park probably every day, and I don't think I do 35 miles an hour right now. I don't think I'd have a problem to moving it to 25 miles an hour. I don't know if we're governed by state law on residential areas, what we can do as far as speed limits or what. But, to slow it down in that area, I wouldn't have a problem with that if that's something that we could do.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Ms. McKillop, if you don't mind, would you come to the mic, please? I'm just going to ask a general question. Doesn't this need approval from the residents, like a petition, or is this something that councilmatic action can take care of?
That specific question would be
Is your mic on?
for, yes, it is, sorry. That specific question would be for Director Deary, but I can say that speed limits are governed by the Ohio Revised Code. And although the Ohio Revised Code, now I'm not a lawyer, I believe there is verbiage in there that does allow municipalities to make changes, but only based on certain criteria, a traffic study, something to that effect, that basically shows that, one, you're not causing, further harm than what is already existing. You're not potentially putting other factors or increasing factors that may cause other issues like traffic accidents or, that type of thing. So, again, depending on, what, why, this is being looked at, it may be possible, but I do not believe, and again, this is up to Director Deary, that council can just vote to change the speed limit.
Thank you. So through you, Madam Chair, so, based upon what Engineer McKillips is saying, I would suggest, and obviously if Engineer McKillop said that's not what she's saying, but it sounds like, I think what would make sense is that this matter would be referred to Safety Service and Engineering to take a look at this and to see if the criteria exists. And again, if the situation merits a traffic study or any of these other technical undertakings to see if the speed limit adjustment is warranted. I can tell you that this wouldn't be a matter of changing any of our codified ordinances. The codified ordinances don't address speed limits. So I'm not saying that it wouldn't be something that could be done by councilmatic action, but I think that we would need some, quantitative analysis from the engineering department in order to do that. And I'm not sure that even if for instance, all the techie stuff bears out, I would hazard to say engineering would then take action even if you didn't have the councilmatic backing.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think too, perhaps not a petition from the residents, but allow the residents that live on the street to have some input, feedback. So I agree with Mrs. Deary. Mr. Oswald, I'll get to you in just one second, that we need to send this on to engineering and the safety service director and let them do their thing, and then if it needs to come back before us, it can do so. Mr. Oswald?
Yes, I'm agreeing, but do we need to just say we will table this until we get more information, or do we just not have to do anything and just let the engineering department worry about that?
Ms. Deary, but I think we can just say, let engineering and them do their thing, and then it could come back before us, and if it needs to. Mrs. Deary?
Agreed, and obviously, and this is the case with any topic, should this committee or council as a whole wish to inquire as to the status, you're obviously more than welcome to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder?
Through you, Madam Chair, through Engineer McPhillips, would engineering look into possibly adding a stop sign somewhere to control to slow the traffic? You know what I'm saying, like near Miami, or has that been looked at before?
We do not install stop signs for speed control. There are other methods for traffic calming that can be looked into. But yeah, additional stop signs just to slow vehicles down is not, it could actually cause more issues. Now you have a car that's stopping that wasn't stopping before, so now once they pass the stop sign, even if they stop, now they're speeding faster to get to where they're going because we interrupted their original path of travel. There are studies out there that shows the more stop signs you put out, the more drivers tend to disregard them because they're a pain for some people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? So again, we're going to remove this item from the agenda. If it needs to come back before this committee, it can do so. Thank you, Engineer McKillop. You could have just stayed up there. Item number 4 has been removed at the request of Mr. Jacobs. Item number 5 is the matter of authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional service agreement with CTI Engineering Incorporated, amendment number 3. Mrs. McKillop.
Through you, Madam Chair, the city's held a contract with CTI engineers for the past several years to do our inspections at the wastewater treatment plant. We'd like to continue using this firm to do inspections. Want to continue with closeout of an existing project plus work on future projects. This firm has quite a bit of knowledge of our existing plant facilities, and we found them to be very prompt, very thorough with their inspections and reports. We'd like to continue using them, and we'd ask that we pass an amendment to their existing contract.
Thank you, Mrs. McKillop. Are there any questions from Mrs. McKillop? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of professional service agreement with CTI Engineers for Amendment Number 3 for construction projects at the wastewater plant. This is a this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said agreement for the amount of $200,222 for Amendment Number 3 of said project. Monies have been appropriated in the 2022 budget. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Mrs. Davis, second by Mr. Oswald. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 6 is the matter of a change order for additional quantities for the 2022 street resurfacing project, Phase 2. This is the concrete contract. Engineer McKillop, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. We've completed Phase 2 of this year's city resurfacing program, and as Madam Chair said, this is the concrete contract where we went through and cut out and replaced concrete pavement that was either broken, cracked, what have you. The quantities actually exceeded what was originally in the project to the point of $75,373.02. We're requesting the change order be approved for our contractor.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Engineer McKillop? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of the 2022 street resurfacing project, Phase 2, change order, concrete contract. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a change order for additional quantities for the said project. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Mrs. Simmons, second by Mr. Oswald. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, the matter of authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and award a contract for the wastewater pollution control plant concrete, masonry, and miscellaneous repair project. Engineer McKillop.
Thank you again through you, Madam Chair. This project has actually been approved through council back in 2018. We bid the project twice. First time bids came in over the engineer's estimate. The second time we didn't have any bidders. So we were looking to possibly add this work to another project, but we're to the point now that the condition of the area that needs to be repaired just needs to be repaired. So we're just gonna put this out as a separate project. This is one of those projects that we will have CTI that you just earlier approved. This is one project that we will have them inspecting as this work goes on. We would like to get this bid out as soon as possible, and the funds are available in the wastewater project.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Engineer McKillop? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of concrete, masonry, and miscellaneous repairs at the wastewater water plant. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and award a contract for said project. Funds are appropriated in the wastewater capital fund. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, who made the motion, please? It was moved by Mr. Oswald, second by Mrs. Simmons. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is the matter of revisions to the sewer use ordinance, section 932.03E of the codified ordinance of the city of Elyria. Superintendent Corzine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I'd like to introduce Shane Derricott. He is our supervisor for our industrial pretreatment program. And Shane and I have been working together on a number of projects that involve sampling and at various locations throughout the city and at the plant. We are coming to council tonight to make some modifications, if council so desires, to section E. I have handed out a markup copy. So on the second page, E number 5 is the first item. And what this modification does is just changes the amount of heat that can be discharged so that instead of being 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit, I would like the plant only to get a maximum of 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I can't see that we would ever get to these temperatures, but the temperatures that were originally in the ordinance are definitely way too high. So, and a lot of this is based on relatively newer information, but just on the biology of how the bacteria work in our process. So that's the first number. Number 6, this is a typographical error. We updated a table further in this section of the ordinance from 50 to 150 milligrams per liter for what we call fats, oils, and greases, FOG, or oil and grease. So this is just correcting the written part of number 6 from 50 to the 150 that's actually in our limit table. Number 8, what we're looking to do here is take out the excessive wording that we think gives some wiggle room to this item, and just have it state any waters or waste containing radioactive waste or radioactive isotopes. And the reason for that is that radioactive substances, if discharged to the wastewater treatment plant, they're going to end up in our sludge cake. And that we will not be able to dispose of the sludge cake if that happens. So we would like to take out that excessive wording and make it more absolute. I know in my 27 years of working in this field, I know of one wastewater treatment plant that did end up in that problem. And it was a medical facility that discharged radioactive isotopes, and they had quite an issue with it. So that's the reason for that one. Number 9 is new. This says any waters or waste containing polychlorinated biphenyls or PCBs, dioxins, furans, any regulated toxic waste, RCRA or CERCLA waste or substances that would classify the POTW as a toxic substance treatment and or disposal facility. One thing we definitely don't ever want to be classified as is a toxic substance treatment and or disposal facility. There's way too many environmental regulations placed on those types of facilities. So the items like PCBs, dioxins, furans, and these other things, these are things that EPA mandates that we sample the water coming into the plant, our sludge cake, and the water going out of the plant for every year. So we just want to make this, make sure that this is in the section of the ordinance that is titled General Discharge Prohibitions, so that we don't end up in a situation where we have these compounds coming into the plant. And number 10, any waters or wastes containing quaternary ammonium compounds or other antimicrobial compounds in sufficient quantity that would inhibit or kill the microbes in the activated sludge process at the POTW. That's a new paragraph to this section. A number of years ago, we did have an incident where we had a discharger send us a load of quaternary ammonium compounds to the plant, and it did kill off a large number of our microbes. And we were actually violating our permit. We knew who it was. We levied enforcement action against them. They were fined. EPA was made aware, and so, there was no action taken against us because of that. But since these compounds are, especially the quaternary ammonium compounds, those are extremely effective against bacteria. So we would like to add that as a general discharge prohibition. And on the next page, number 16 just deletes the word "and" because we're adding the paragraph 18. Paragraph 17 adds the word "and" at the end. And the new paragraph 18 states, any waters or waste containing per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS. You may have been hearing a lot in the news lately, especially within the last year, about PFAS compounds. These are substances that are made out of carbon and fluorine. They have extremely strong bonds. They're long chain molecules that have a lot of carbon and fluorine bonded together. It takes a lot to break those bonds. They don't biodegrade. If we get these substances into the plant, they'll pass through the plant without being treated. Our systems can't treat it. They will end up in the sludge cake at the plant. And EPA right now they actually closed the public comment period on a new regulation that they're looking to impose to have limits on 2 of these approximately 16,000 PFAS compounds. And we view this as being the tip of the iceberg, because as they get into more and more and more of these compounds, and they do more and more studies, they're going to find that there are environmental and public health issues with some of the other ones. So the 2 that they're looking to regulate, they have proposed limits for wastewater treatment plants. They have not specified what they want to do on the regulatory level for the sludge cake. So we're kind of in limbo on that. From the sampling that Shane has done and his team, we know that based on the plant effluent limits that they're proposing right now, from the sampling that we've done, we're okay. We don't know what they're looking to do with the sludge cake. So since this is kind of something that EPA is pushing, we would like to make these changes to this section, and if council so agrees, we're asking for the emergency clause on this because of the timing that US EPA is marching along with proposed regulations that they just closed the public comment period on, and we did submit comments on that. There were over 37,000 comments on the docket. At my last check, Monday was the close of the comment date. So there were over 37,000 comments. So I'm sure that there's a gajillion wastewater treatment plants just like us that were submitting comments on these regulations. So.
Thank you, Mr. Corzine. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Madam Chair, or Mr. Corzine, just maybe real quick on number 8. Can you kind of give me an example where that would be coming from? Where would we get contamination that would have radioactivity? Is it somebody dumping into our rivers or streams or something?
Actually, we've not had any such instances at our wastewater plant. Since we do have case studies elsewhere across the United States where these things have happened, it just behooves us to, our existing industrial users don't have radioactive isotopes or anything like that. But for the future, to have a better system of regulating what future industries or whatever could possibly have, and knowing the extreme dangers that these things pose for wastewater treatment plants, that's why we're adding that.
Well, I just wanted to make another comment, how amazingly knowledgeable you are, and thank God we have your team and yourself looking out for the safety of our city, so thank you very much.
I concur. Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair, I concur, but I was also going to say, I'm so glad that you and Shane are on our side.
Right.
Instead on the opposite side. So, thank you, Mr. Cortez.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of revisions to Sewer Use Ordinance Section 932.03E, and this is an ordinance authorizing the changes and revisions to Section 932.03E of the Codified Ordinance of Elyria, and this is requesting an emergency clause. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Simmons, second by Mrs. Davis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the matter of proposing a crosswalk on Gulf Road from Nottingham Drive to the east side. That doesn't make sense, but okay. Councilmember Oswald, I'm going to give you a second. But isn't this the same thing as we just did with the speed limit on Park Avenue, where it needs to go to engineering to be studied? Ms. McKillop?
This is similar to, that request. We would, prior to placing a crosswalk in any location, you would want to check to see, you know, will it be used? You know, what's the traffic in that area? I know it's Gulf Road and people tend to speed on Gulf Road, so that's something we would need to look at. We would need to look at, is it going to require the flashing pedestrian beacons and, additional crosswalk ahead signs, that type of thing. So yes, we would want to, review it, make sure that, one, if it's, a good location for it, is there a need, and the safety aspect of it, with the traffic on Gulf Road, so.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald, since you referred it, please go ahead.
Well, I'm fine with that if it gets referred to engineering, because at first, I didn't think too much about it when somebody asked me about if this was a possibility, and the more I started talking to everybody in that area, they're like, wow, that sounds like a really great idea and a possibility of slowing traffic down just because of the flashing lights. So, yeah, if the engineering department can look into that, and then I will get with them, and anything I can do, we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you all, thank you. So we're going to remove this item from the agenda. It can go to engineering and safety. If it needs to come back before this committee, we can do so. The last item on the agenda is the matter of the 2023 streets resurfacing. How exciting, right? Seems like we just got done with 2022, and it's 2023 again. And all I wanted to say is, if you have not scheduled your ride-along, engineering has been kind enough this year to offer a ride-along with us, so they can let us know how streets are selected and potentially what streets we should be looking at doing. And I found that because we started this early last year, that it went well. I think it went well, although the striping on some streets is not done. But it will be, right? Awesome. Thank you. Ms. Davis?
Through you, Madam Chair, one thing I'd like to let you know is get a list of your streets. We may assume that this may be our street or something, so if you would contact our office, the clerk's office, they can give you a list of your streets. So I've already done that.
I've already done that as well.
That's how I know. So get a list of your streets before you do the drive-along.
Right.
Thank you.
I agree. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to start off by saying kudos to Madam Chair, because what we need, you've asked for more money every time you can. So I think we as a whole need to push a little bit more to see if we can get more money. The things people complain about the most in the city is getting their trash picked up, their leaves, their nice roads. So I think what we need to do is listen to what they're saying and put more money into the roads.
I
So,
agree.
Ms. Mitchell, you're doing a great job.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you. And you know, you think $1.8 million is a lot of money? It's nothing. It really isn't. I mean, when you talk about streets and the cost, 1.8 million is nothing. So, you know, we've got ARPA funds. If we can use some of the ARPA funds to do streets, then yeah, my hand is out. I want it. So, yep. Anything else? Any other questions and or comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Oswald, second by Mrs. Davis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Have a good night, everyone, and thank you all so much. Thank you, Shane. It was nice of you to come.